Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Polari. Of course, it's the news, all over the news since Friday when the president appointed new service chiefs. And he has tasked them on vigilance. Okay, we'll talk about that today. There have been all sorts of rumors. So what exactly should one take? The sweeping changes made by the president, with these appointments, well, he had said that it was in furtherance of our security architecture and also to consolidate command loyalty within the military. Okay, so our guest is Dr. Kabir Adamu, our friend, CEO, Beacon Consulting, I beg your pardon. I can't rename your company. Beacon Consulting Limited. Dr. Kabir Adamu, good morning to you.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. I'm delighted to be with you.
All right then. So I'll just to refresh memories, we'll just play a package and then I'll come straight back and we'll continue this conversation.
In a decisive reorganization of the Armed Forces top command, President Bola Tinubu appointed Lieutenant General Olufemi Oloyede as a new Chief of Defense Staff, replacing General Christopher Musa.
To articulate valuable and forward-thinking policies.
The president also named Major General Waidi Shaibu as a new Chief of Army Staff, Air Vice Marshal Sunday Aneke as Chief of Air Staff, and Rear Admiral Idi Abbas as Chief of Naval Staff. However, in a mark of continuity and confidence, Major General Emmanuel Odiandeye retains his position as the Chief of Defense Intelligence. In a statement issued by the Special Advisor to the President on Media and Public Communications, Sunday Dare, the President expressed deep appreciation to the outgoing Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, and other former service chiefs for their patriotic service and dedicated leadership. President Tinubu charged the newly appointed service chiefs to justify the confidence reposed in them by enhancing professionalism, vigilance, and comradeship within the armed forces of Nigeria. All appointments, according to the statement, take immediate effect, with Lieutenant General Olufemi Oloyede now at the helm as Chief of Defense Staff and Major General Odiandeye continuing in intelligence leadership. The nation's defense structure enters a new phase, one the president hopes will bring renewed strength and cohesion to Nigeria's security operations. Sifon Essien, TVC News, Abuja.
Okay, brief. That's the report. That's all of it as a matter of fact. Coming over to you, Dr. Adamu, a brief statement, but there's so very much that can be unpacked in that statement. I have heard you, by the way, speaking about this matter on other stations. I just wanted, I know you were asked the question whether you saw this coming, to which you responded that no, you hadn't seen this coming. It has just, it hit when it hit. So I just wanted to ask you, these sweeping changes, the president didn't say any more than that it was to strengthen the nation's security architecture as well as consolidate command loyalty with the military. Okay, so it looks like, in fact, elsewhere, the president, in that same statement, I believe, or was it commentators who were saying this, that actually this is a routine exercise. Okay, so I'm going to ask you, Dr. Adamu, how routine is such an exercise where a sweeping change like this has come into effect?
Within the Nigerian context, Uncle Yori, not so routine, especially given the fact that we are on the heels of the Buhari administration, where we saw the then service chiefs serving beyond what was even contained in the harmonized terms and conditions of service of the military, which states clearly that the minimum is 2 years. And then, of course, for the service term will be 4 years. But We also know that the president is at liberty, of course, to appoint, and that means where he deems necessary, he could also renew that appointment. I think those are gray areas within our law, and of course, President Buhari did that. And in doing that, he created a challenge that the military is currently trying to deal with, the top-heavy nature of the military, where we have generals a little bit beyond what the current number of military or soldiers should have at the moment. So to that extent, it is not so routine. Since this administration was sworn in May 29, 2023, of course, I think 2 months after, he appointed the service chiefs, and then this is the first rotation that we're seeing. The rotation is coming on the heels of several things, but the one I think that is really important for, in my view, this conversation is the fact that we're actually beginning to see an improvement in the current security situation. The numbers, especially if you pick fatalities, is indicating an improvement. We started the year at about 1,000 deaths per month. It peaked at about 1,300 in the month of April, and then it started dipping to the point where in September we recorded 580 deaths. So clearly, if you compare it either to the 1,000 or the 1,300, it's an improvement. And when we looked more closely at the reasons for the improvement, Uncle Yori, it was principally because of the efficacy of military operations. The military interdiction operations were more successful and what I mean by this is we saw them taking precise operations where they were killing top commanders of the various armed groups that we have in the country, terrorists, bandits, and then in the Niger Delta, those who are behind the stealing of our petroleum and other minerals. So to that extent, those successes were quite instrumental. And we were a bit surprised really with this change because of course if you are recording successes and it's principally because of an improvement in military mechanism, then it would be a little bit surprising, you know.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Indeed, as you say, I mean, I'm sorry for just jumping in there because what you were saying is how I had also read it. But perhaps for some people, and there are those who will analyze everything. And one of the things, when they've taken every word that the president spoke, the president wouldn't have been speaking, wouldn't have been ad-libbing. He probably would have been very careful about what he was going to say as it was reported. Now, he did say it was to strengthen the nation's security architecture. And here's the one that I noted, and also consolidate command loyalty within the military. Now, to consolidate command loyalty within the military, that seems to me, but I want your take on this, that seems to me like, might there have been worries in that area? Because that wouldn't be good at all. The one thing that the armed forces, one of the most important principles that the armed forces hold dear is that of loyalty. But here we're hearing of command loyalty. We also now combine this with the fact that Mr. President had thanked the former the former Chief of Defense Staff, General Christopher Musa, for his valuable service. So what can you make of those things? As I said, maybe people want to overthink things, but those that are looking at it from that point of view say, Oga is talking about consolidating the command loyalty within the military. Was there any, to the best of your knowledge, any concern in that department?
Clearly, definitely, and I'm sure just like every other person out there, you would also have had the rumor of coup plans and the fact that some officers may have been arrested. Although the defense headquarters did issue a statement to discredit those rumors.
Yes.
But consistently we've seen reports, and one of the most credible online or investigative platforms, which is Premium Times, has for almost a week been on a daily basis publishing insights into what it believes was this attempt at coup. And we haven't seen any retributal, any response by any arm of government to those publications by Premium Times. I wouldn't have quoted that any other platform, but Premium Times has been reputable. We've seen very rare instances where its investigative reports, false or turn out not to be true. So to that extent, I think there is reason perhaps to use that as one of the credible sources. Beyond that, there are also other sources that are not so open, that have also corroborated the fact that yes, there have been arrests, and yes, that those arrests may be tied to national security without being specific. We know that those individuals are currently being debriefed. And so when the president, in a statement, official statement, or rather his handlers in an official statement, indicate that the change is to consolidate loyalty within the military institution or establishment, it now takes us back to these rumors. Perhaps there may have been more substance to it than what we were taught to believe. Irrespective, I think every Nigerian will agree with me that our hard-fought democracy needs to be protected. And one of the cardinal principles of the military, which they swear to, is to actually protect democracy, to subject themselves to democratic oversight. So whatever the president and whatever the service chiefs would do to ensure that the military establishment subjects itself to democratic oversight is something that as a Nigerian I support, and that I'm sure a lot of Nigerians, including yourself, would encourage. So time would tell whether this action by the president would continue to ensure that the military establishment subjects itself to civilian oversight. One of my greatest worries, which I think in previous appearances on your show I have muted, is the role of online media. And specifically, I'm referring to incidents that are happening within the Sahel, where military juntas, especially the one in Burkina Faso and to an extent Guinea, are being portrayed as heroes. And a lot of Nigerians are watching that. The propaganda appears to be winning the hearts of some Nigerians. So all of this ties into this statement. It's a very short statement,
yes,
but it is significant. Let's not forget that for this republic, this is the longest that Nigeria has experienced, and we must do everything to protect the sanctity of the republic.
Indeed. And, as I said, the president had thanked General Christopher Musa, the former chief of staff, who has now been replaced by Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede. And quite frankly, there's Air Vice Marshal S.K. Aneke, Rear Admiral I.E. Abaz, there's Chief of Defense Intelligence, the Major General, and I think there's also Waidi Shaibu. So all of these are sterling officers, no doubt. But all of what you just finished commenting on, the whole action itself was attributed to, when they say strengthening the nation's security architecture, it was all about discipline. That's the way the military put it out to us. It was about discipline within the forces, especially, I don't know if I should say especially, within the army. So when you look at it, and then when you combine it with things that experts like yourself, expert commentators have been talking about, the commander-in-chief is at liberty to appoint these service chiefs for 2 years in the first instance, and then if he feels like it, he can renew it for another 2 years. All of that is his prerogative, and he has done it. So ordinarily, there is nothing to talk about, because it didn't just come out of nowhere. It didn't come out of left field. There are provisions for it. So the president has indeed taken that opportunity and has done what he has done. But people, as you know, that dreaded word, coup, came up. But State House has not spoken one word in regards to that. I suppose that's that's also as should be in these kind of announcements. The president didn't mention anything about a coup. The most he did say was consolidating the command loyalty within the army. And what is disloyalty to a head of state, or in this case, a president, if not disloyalty? So not to, drag the matter too much. Maybe stuff might come out later on, but for now, this is all that we have. So I don't know. We should be dealing with the present, and the present is Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, who has replaced the former, occupant of that office, General Christopher Musa. I don't know, continuing the whole matter of people who speculate, people who put out rumors. Much has been said about General Christopher Musa being a very forthright person, and his opinion on matters of on professional matters is well known to colleagues and those who work closely with him. And I just wanted to ask you if, as people are speculating, perhaps not everybody was on the same page when it came to how to do the job, how to deal with it. That is another thought. I wonder if you'd heard that as well.
Because of the significance of the development, the military is probably the most respected, most efficacious institution for policy, security policy and defense policy implementation in the country. So anything that affects the military would definitely engender different types of chatter and conversation, both openly and then, of course, within the intelligence corridors, and of course, nationally and internationally. So to that extent, yes, I've had that type of chatter.
I like your word, chatter. Is no more than that. We can't call it anything more than that at this stage. Chatter.
Exactly. And of course, in intelligence cycle, chatters are sometimes important.
Oh, yes.
That's the beginning point of, you are actually hearing about it, and it gives you the direction on whether to go ahead and try to verify it or not. So yeah, one of the things that is being mentioned is that's the immediate past Chief of Defense Staff's position on this peace pact with bandits in parts of the Northwest. He came out very clear on several occasions, and as a professional that he is, to state that he was not supportive of those peace pact. As far as he was concerned, the recipe for responding to those bandits is to send them to their maker. And, he was not apologetic in that regard. But we also know that there are certain elements within the government who perhaps preferred a more conciliatory approach. And it's obvious if today over 15 local governments across 2 states and another probably 6 local governments across about 3 states have entered into either codified or non-codified peace pacts, then it's very clear that this has an element of state sanction. Another area of concern has been his constant media appearances.
Okay. Please explain that. Let's talk a bit more about that.
So in some of the media appearances, he's made statements that, the military establishment has struggled to, crisis management, when the Oga makes a statement and then the boys, as it were, now have to rush to correct the statement and, give it some sanctity or meaning, or to lessen the impact. One example is when he said he doesn't know who was behind the funding of terrorists, as it were, in the country, when in reality there are government departments who have the mandate for knowing, and they've actually worked extensively on that, and they've made their reports very clear. So it was a bit surprising, and unfortunately he made that statement in an international media platform that generated a lot of viewership. And I think there was a lot of reaction, as it were, after that. And like I said, the media team of the defense headquarters struggled very hard to contain the consequence of that. Another example I'll give is, I think, when he called on Nigerians, as it were, to defend themselves.
Yeah.
That too generated a lot of reaction, and I think it was more or less in contradiction with the government position at that time. And his media team had to struggle, to reduce the consequences as it were. So I think that's a lesson, and I'm hoping this is something that the new Chief of Defense Staff, General Oluwede, should learn. He has a media team. Let them handle their professionals. That's why they are appointed to head those media teams. Let them actually handle the media company. Yeah, from time to time, occasionally, you can grant media interviews, but allow the media team to do their work. They are responsible for communicating strategies and whatever it is that the defense headquarters and of course the other components too also have their media teams. And I think I've also seen the National Orientation Agency organizing media, whatever they call them, convenings. There's nothing wrong with the defense headquarters contributing to those convenings. I've seen the police contributing to it. So there's enough platforms within the government cycles to allow for the media team within the DHQ to talk to Nigerians. They are also doing their own weekly and bi-weekly media convenings and outreach. So there is enough platform. And like I said, occasionally he can issue statements, but they should be based on existing protocols and not statements that would generate more controversy, as it were, than help clarify policy directions within the defense and security sector.
Yeah, thank you. So, but all of this we should also put under the subheading of chatter. This is the chatter that we are hearing. All of these can go under chatter. But one thing that can't be chatter is the fact that, well, maybe I shouldn't say that. What I should say is that arguably Nigeria is top-heavy with generals. And the fact that this action has happened now, it is thought, maybe even almost known, that there are going to be casualties of this decision. In the army, I understand that you can't, if a person is if he has a certain appointment, then his rank has to be comparable to the appointment. And so with this situation now, the general who has moved off, Lieutenant General Oluwede, how is that going to work out? I think you might be a bit better at understanding these seniority and these rankings. Some people might actually, as a result, a direct result of this action, not having done anything untoward themselves, have to vacate the scene.
Yeah, and that's, I think, the most unfortunate part of this development. It's a tradition. It's not codified in law. There is nothing so far, based on my research and based on my, it is a research, conversations with both serving and retired military personnel. Even looking at the harmonized terms and conditions of service as revised in 2024, there is nothing there that says it's a law, but it is a tradition, and that tradition is really to uphold the hierarchical nature of the military. It would be difficult, for instance, for, let's say, the CDS to now have someone who is senior to him within his team, except if the appointment is one that does not command much authority, as it were. And there are so many types of appointments in that regard. So as a result of tradition, in the four major components, which is the defense headquarters, the Army headquarters, the Navy headquarters, and the Air Force headquarters, a significant number of generals and their equivalent may have to go as a result of this tradition. Now, several reports, I've seen several, especially in some trustworthy media platforms. The one that I think is most worrisome, the numbers have ranged from 50 to 160 generals who may have to go. But I know this is just speculation. There are, like I did mention, there are positions that where appointment can hold. As an example, there is nothing wrong, for instance, where I think the lowest ranked service chief is of the 41 course. So there's nothing wrong, for instance, with the Chief of Defense Staff drawing some of generals from the Army or the Navy, as it were, to the defense headquarters to avoid, for instance, having them go. You can give them, but then the challenge is that the positions are limited. You can probably do that to a small number of generals. So a significant number will still have to go. But Uncle Yoridi, for me, the issue is this: what pathway, what platform have we as a country created to tap the resources that is inherent in these generals? We've trained them to this point. They have skill sets that we need as a country to address the security challenges currently ongoing in the country. So should we just, retire them and they now kind of do what I'm doing at the moment, which is private security, which is, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
But not when we're with an insurgency, not when we're faced with multiple dynamic security challenges across the country. So I think our legislature, and I'm hoping the presidency, should consider some form of platforms, pathways to harness the skill sets that are available. As an example, across the world, you have think tanks, some of them supported by political parties, others supported by foundations, others supported by the state. We have very few in Nigeria. Yeah, we have the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies, we have the Defense College and its alumni, and things like that. But we need more specialized think tanks. The foundations that we have in Nigeria are not looking in that direction. The Dangote Foundation, the Boa Foundation, the Mike, I've forgotten his second name, Foundation, which is doing stellar job within the public sector. So I think we need to raise that type of attention, that perhaps there is a need to look at pathways and platforms to harness the skill sets that we're now letting go. Because the danger is this, Uncle Yuri. It's either we harness it, or if we're not careful, the bad guys don't harness it. In my opinion, it's better the state harnesses it for her own good.
Okay. Good morning, Dr. Durosimi, Dr. Olatoye Durosimi. Good morning, retired AIG.
Good morning, sir, Uncle Yori. My take on the current issue is that the President and the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces has every right to change any service chief at any time he feels he has to do so.
That's right.
Linking this up with like a coach that wants to win a match, he can as well change position of players or bring in other fresh legs to come and add their own contributions.
Okay. Yes. Is that it, Dr. Durosimi? Thank you very much.
That's the same. This is me. Yeah, this is Durosimi.
No, I said, have you finished speaking, sir?
Pardon?
I was thanking you. I said, is that it? Have you finished your statement?
Yeah, what I'm saying...
I heard you. That he has the right.
Yeah, he has the right. Constitutional right.
That's right.
To change the service chief.
We've mentioned that.
When he feels he has to do so.
Yes, sir. We've mentioned that.
The war we are waging right now. And I'm liking him up like a coach of a team that wants to win match.
Okay.
He has the right to bring in some players, some fresh leg to the team, and all this for the purpose of winning that match.
All right.
The fresh team of the play will surely make sure that we win the ideas, and those ideas can actually be the winning.
Okay.
Win the match. What we are after is let's win this war against these hoodlums who are disturbing the nation.
Thank you very much, Dr. Olatoye Durosimi, retired AIG. Thank you for calling in. We also have on the line Mr. George, who called in from Lagos. Good morning to you, Mr. George. Please go ahead now.
Good morning, Yuri, and good morning to Dr. Kadir.
Yes. Thank you. Please go ahead.
The noise that this matter has attracted is uncalled for. People should know where to draw a line between security and politics. I don't know. Do they want the president to consult them before taking security decisions? These are the same people complaining about the activities of bandits, Boko Haram, and all the rest about insecurity. And when the president takes an action to address it, some people will be complaining. I don't see the need for politicizing a purely security issue. The president has every right to decide when to change any security chief for reasons he is not obliged to disclose to the public. So, and we cannot claim now that we know about the security situation in the country more than the commander-in-chief, who knows it all. We should just draw a line between politics and security. Insecurity shouldn't be debated. The coup, phantom coup, speculation, and all that, I still see a political intonation behind it. If you ask me, that same time that this coup story was being peddled in the media, the president went outside the country and came back. If you are a president and you are aware that some people are trying to overthrow you, will you still have the confidence to go out and do something that is for the benefit of the country and come back in the midst of all that? I find it difficult to swallow, and I don't know the reason why people are unnecessarily promoting it. I saw somebody on television, who was saying that a president must explain the speculation to people. How do you expect a president to explain a speculation? I mean, what I expect the new chiefs to do, even the security chiefs themselves, they know that once you are a general, your time of exit is near. They all know this. So they themselves are not the ones complaining. People are just trying to cry more than they believe. What I will expect the new chiefs to do, Uncle Yori,
all right,
is to adopt a new strategy on this banditry that is coming up. A situation where Boko Haram is using drones needs a new strategy, and that is what they should be looking at. That's just my own suggestion.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. George, calling in from Lagos. Dr. Adamu, what do you think about that? He said, he wishes people would sort of learn how to demarcate between politics and what was the word? Security. Find a way to be able to distinguish. Now, he didn't add a third one: curiosity of the Nigerian people. Once Nigerian people heard that anything was even rumored to be happening negatively around their beloved president, then the rumor mill is going to go haywire, isn't it? But do you see it from because the president belongs to all of us. All Nigerians claim him as our president. And so to that extent, they want to know. But you heard what he said. What would be your sort of comment on that point of view?
As someone who operates within the security space and is also very conversant with some of the challenges within both the defense and the larger security space, Uncle Yori, one of our challenges in the country is the legacy of the military rule. And sometimes we see people projecting that legacy without necessarily realizing that that's what they are doing. Okay. The major reason why our democracy in this Fourth Republic has sustained this long is because we decided to discountenance that military legacy. And so openness and transparency in governance is one of the key foundational principles upon which our democracy runs. And if Nigerians feel concerned about our beloved president and discuss it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's out of love, it's out of concern, it's out of the need to protect the democracy that he himself, the president, actually fought for. I think the onus is on, especially the presidency, to be more open, as it were, with regards to the fact if persons are being arrested, I think by now the charges against them, yes, it's possible that it's through military courts, court-martials that will be held. But by now, the reasons for their arrest, the charges against them should have been made public. So these are the kind of things that are actually fanning the speculation. We don't really know, not yet. It hasn't been made public. Yes, statements have been issued, but the process of determining their guilt or not hasn't started yet. So those rumor mills will continue to spin until those types of things become obvious. Persons have been arrested before October 1. They're still in detention. They've not been charged. Again, if it's a court martial, the process should have started. If it's not, if it's a civil court, by now they should have been charged. Well, since they are serving officers, I don't expect it to be a civil court.
No.
So just to clarify to Mr. George, I think the fact that Nigerians are discussing it, there is nothing wrong within a democratic setting. I think, again, the onus should be on the relevant departments. In this instance, I think the Army headquarters to move a little bit faster than they are at the moment now. Charge them and let the processes determine whether they're guilty or not. If within the charge we don't see anything about insurrection or mere attempt or overstate the government, the charges are very clear, the internal matter, Nigerians will stop speaking. But for as long as that is not done, Nigerians will continue to combat, especially where events like what we are seeing, follow through, such as the change in the leadership of the military, as it were, and the statements that says consolidate loyalty and all of that.
Exactly.
So again, I don't think there's anything wrong with this conversation.
Indeed.
It's all part of the democratic principles that we've embraced.
And then the president had charged the new appointees to, he had tasked them on vigilance. So you see, we Nigerians who are old enough to have actually experienced coups, that is to say, they were alive when coups were executed and they followed all the coverage of it. Since those unhappy times, I think most Nigerians have come to the level of saying things like, never again. A coup cannot happen in this country. Nigeria, we will not accept it. I mean, they just thought that it was out of the reasoning of any normal person. And then the rumor mill, came agog with stuff such as 16, no less, 16 senior officers reportedly were arrested for plotting to overthrow the government. That is stupendous news. And insiders have claimed that the coup plotters had actually, earmarked the 1st of October to make a strike, and that was part of why the whole thing was cancelled. And also, people remember that the president spent a bit of time, a bit longer time in Lagos when he came for that break than he usually spends out of Abuja. So maybe I hear what Mr. George is saying, that why are you dignifying all these things that have not been confirmed yet? But it probably is there in what you've just said, that and what I have just said, that Nigerians are concerned to know what exactly happened there. The 65th anniversary was supposed to have been a strike day, according to the speculation that has not been addressed at all. It was not denied, it was not even commented upon. But it did seem like a pretty dramatic plot. But then it's going to be up to the court martial to sort of get to the bottom of that and let the public know whatever the decision is on it. But these are perhaps part of the normalcy of these things.
Definitely, and the earlier these things are kind of concluded, I think the better for everyone.
Then everybody can, yes, everybody can move on, get busy, and because Mr. George is thinking that, is it not too much hands? I mean, too idle a hand that makes you almost fixate on this false story, because that's what we can call it at the moment. Mr. George used the expression phantom coup. Let us know where we are so that we can go and get on with our lives and do other things.
Simple, honestly. And just to remind ourselves that these service chiefs taking the mantle of leadership at a crucial time. The early drums of the 2027 elections have just begun to beat. The president has issued a directive to the national security enterprise. But I want to remind us, and I think this is significant, that the military is just one component of that national security enterprise. It is not the responsibility of the military alone to address the security challenges within the country, but it is probably the most important component of the policy implementation within the defense sector. Now, these service chiefs are inheriting a military structure that has several distress issues. I've listed some of them, and if you allow me, I'll quickly mention them.
Please go ahead.
Leadership. I did talk about the fact that because of the Buhari era, we are now seeing a top-heavy leadership with perhaps too many generals. The second point is civilian oversight. There has been great improvement, and I must commend the immediate past service chiefs for building the very essential legacies for civilian oversight. But these new ones need to carry it along so that the entire military establishment sees itself as subjecting itself to civilian oversight completely, not just verbally, but in terms of processes. I'll give you a very good example. When you launch Operation Fansanyama, you should take the operational plan, the objectives, the mandate of that plan to the necessary committees within the National Assembly. Let them understand why that operation is launched, how long that operation will last, what monies, resources you require to implement that. So that's subjecting yourself to civilian oversight completely. I know there are a lot of Nigerians that would disagree with me, but as long as we embrace democracy, this is what democracy requires. Number three is funding constraints within the military, and that needs to be addressed. The only way to address that is for managing the various stakeholders, the presidency, the legislature, the defense headquarters, the Ministry of Defense, name them. They are all important in ensuring that this funding constraint is addressed. Number five is corruption and lack of accountability within the ministry. We shouldn't shy away from that. And then, of course, equipment and logistics deficit. I keep on saying that it is not acceptable that our frontline soldiers, some of them are still moving around in soft-skin vehicles. I want to wake up to a day where all of them are in armored vehicles or at least some form of protected vehicles. That's one of these simple ways that you can reduce the casualty rate among them. And then, of course, personnel and training gaps. And we must commend Mr. President for embarking on, I would say, what is revolutionary in terms of improving both the personnel and training gaps within the military and the police and the other security and intelligence sectors. And then, of course, poor civil-military relations. And then the last one is poor welfare conditions. And, the president has within the Renewed Hope agenda an imperative to address this. So I'm hoping that these service chiefs will look at these 7-8 areas that I've mentioned and uphold them in a manner that would allow us to look back and say this is the legacy that they've been able to leave in terms of addressing these core issues that are the dimensions of distress within the Nigerian military.
But steady on, we spend a pretty penny on our military, don't we? What you're saying is that in spite of that, perhaps a bit more might still be necessary.
Not necessarily, Uncle Yori. So it's not a bit more, but I'll give you an example. So monies are, devoted, as it were, to the military and the other security departments, MDAs. But then how is that money being allocated?
Okay.
In a situation, for instance, where the example that most people want to give is a university was built in Biu, where, nothing wrong with building a university, but what is the priority of that when you have your troops, for instance, in the front line in soft-skin vehicles, when, according to a distinguished senator, you have troops whose guns, jam because they are not new, they are old. Troops who sometimes don't have enough equipment in the front line. And then you now go to guest houses and you see swimming pools being built, you see sport facilities being built and all of that. So I think it's a case of priority. Where are those monies going to. You know, in the midst of this challenge, and then you now go and organize a conference where you host the entire continent, when again, I want to repeat, your troops in the front line do not have the kind of vehicles and protective equipment they need to fight the enemy. So these are some core issues that not just the service chiefs, but even the presidency and then the legislature, in terms of appropriation and budgetary provision, would have to look closely at the details of the budget, ask questions so that we, again, tie it to the government agenda in the renewed hope agenda, so that at the end of the day, we see improved commitment from especially the frontline soldiers. They are very conscious of this. They are seeing these issues that I've mentioned, and it affects their morale. So we need to change that. We need to make sure that they feel adequately provided for within what, the limits of what government. I don't think it's a case of increasing the funds. It's rather more about making sure what has been provided is now going to the priority areas that would impact meaningfully those in the front line.
Okay, so, in a sort of a cyclical way, to conclude now, the president has appointed new service chiefs, but I want you to note the second half of that statement, and has tasked them on vigilance. Your commentary. Tasking them on vigilance.
Yes, it's a function of so many things. The easiest response would be strengthen intelligence capabilities. Now, the challenge with intelligence is that intelligence is a function of the requirements that the government puts forward. And I can tell you, one of the challenges that we have as a country is that those requirements sometimes are not strategic. Every country at the beginning of the year generates what is called an intelligence estimate. And those estimates kind of cover all the areas that the government would be interested in. So if vigilance is mentioned in this instance, for me, as a professional, what I'm expecting is that it is tied to that estimate. But as a Nigerian, I also know that that may not necessarily be the case. It may be tied to perhaps regime protection, and there's nothing wrong with that. It may be tied to ensuring, for instance, that the military remains subjected to civilian oversight. There's nothing wrong with that. It may be tied to ensuring that the manifestation of the security challenges, such as the banditry that we're seeing, the terrorism, the spread of terrorism, as it were, to north central Nigeria, and the several other security challenges we're seeing, so that their eyes are open, they understand this, and they're able to contribute to addressing it. So it's a very broad statement that perhaps maybe in the one-on-one conversation he had with them, he was able to break it down. But as an outsider, I expect that these ramifications that I've mentioned would be the types of vigilance that he probably inferred.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Dr. Kabir. Dr. Kabir Adamu, thank you very much for making time for us this morning. Dr. Kabir Adamu is CEO of Beacon Consulting Limited. He's a frequent contributor to our program. Thank you very much once again.
My pleasure, and thank you for having me.
All right, then. Okay, so we're going to have to leave it there, but do please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folari. Bye-bye for now.